The future is come and gone, and we have a lot to unpack. The final episodes of Steven Universe Future has dropped, and we need to get into it. I'm Chris Carr. Let's talk about the Steven Universe Future finale. Before we dive in, I want to give a shout out to all of our amazing donors on Patreon. Thanks to these gems, we've been able to talk to you about the ins and outs of Steven Universe as the series has unfolded. Thanks so much. If you want to chip in, head on over to our Patreon page and see if a donation tier works for you. We'll thank you with shout-outs, patches, and more. If you want to proudly wear your fandom, click that link to TeePublic in the description of this video and get yourself a sweet Steven Universe tee. Lastly, since we're talking about the end of the series, it should go without saying that there are major spoilers in this video. If you haven't watched the episodes yet, then wait on this video. We'll be here when you're all caught up. On to the finale. For the purposes of this video, we'll be talking about the final 3 episodes. If you want a breakdown of Homeworld Bound, or any of the other episodes, definitely check out our Steven Universe Future playlist. After visiting the Diamonds and Spinel back on Homeworld and not getting the answers he sought, Steven returns to Beach City. Steven is getting worse. He's being consumed by his anxiety and his thoughts of self-loathing. They're manifesting on his television set just like they did in the episode In Dreams. Rather than address the issue, Steven once again pushes down his sticky negative emotions, convincing himself that he hasn't done anything wrong and everything is fine. He's not mad at his father. He doesn't hurt people intentionally. And he certainly didn't try to shatter White Diamond. The classic Steven would never do those things or feel this way, and neither should he. Steven is a cherub. When asked how he's doing, he slaps on a smile and tells Connie and his family that he's totally fine. No one seems to buy it, but they go along with it. Frankly, Steven's forced enthusiasm and nervous laugh were almost as disturbing as his more violent outbursts. It was painful watching him try to be so chipper, despite his powers being too much for him to handle. We're all too aware of how Steven is hurting, so seeing him plaster on this veneer is incredibly off-putting. Steven's problem really feels like the classic sad clown tale that's been around for decades and was made famous by the Pagliacci Joke from Watchmen. Rorschach says, "Heard joke once. Man goes to doctor. Says he's depressed. Doctor says, treatment is simple. Great clown Pagliacci is in town tonight. Go and see him. Man bursts into tears. Says, but doctor, I am Pagliacci." This idea that Steven is who everyone turns to in times of trouble is what's permeated his ability to honestly open up to anyone about the internal struggle he's been experiencing. There's this great shot of Steven looking down at his feet in the beginning of the episode. One foot still wearing his trusty flip-flop, the other bare. I think there's a lot more to this shot than giving us a MacGuffin for the Diamonds and Spinel to come to Steven. I think it represents the duality he's experiencing. Steven spent his life living in the shadow of Rose, paying for the mistakes of Pink. But Future is him failing to fill the shoes of his own personal legacy. Steven emerged from the Steven Universe series feeling like he was his own person. Future focuses on figuring out who exactly that person is. Young Steven was the constant savior of the universe. This Steven, teenage Steven, isn't actively defending the galaxy. Even though he doesn't need to be that guy anymore, he's still holding himself to the standard of the perfect hero he has to be for everyone. He's making mistakes and refusing to admit them in order to preserve how the world sees him, and ultimately having to admit that he needs help navigating life. This shot seems to be symbolic of him literally having one foot clad in the past and one foot completely unprotected as he moves forward. Steven decides that everything started going south for him when he stopped working at Little Homeschool, when he stopped helping others. So he decides to try and TA his friends' classes. Everything's Fine echoes the basic plot of other Steven Universe Future episodes. Steven avoids his problems by seeking to help others. However, the gems definitely don't need his help. They've got their own things, and they've got them under control. From Peridot's horticulture class with volleyball, to Bismuth's blacksmithing workshop where she and T.A. Pearl are teaching others to make wedding armor, to Amethyst's baseball game. All of Steven's efforts to assist the gems are wildly out of control. The tiniest bit of magic spit animates an entire greenhouse. A tiny hit of a hammer splits an anvil in half. And a victory yop levels a home. 2 side quests. Those cheeky animators are going to slapstick lengths to hide Volleyball's eye. I guess they really want to leave it up to interpretation as to whether or not she healed. Also, Laramir finally heard Steven scream. What's interesting about Steven tearing through Little Homeworld is how the gems basically just let him do it. Steven zips away in a super speed mania, and it's all, well, I've got a counseling appointment to get to. "Oh gee, that baseball game is about to start." Sure, Amethyst asks if he's okay when she passes by, but nobody takes the time to look for him and sit him down. After years of protecting Steven, they just don't seem to know what to do with him. And frankly, they've never really had to worry. Steven Universe has essentially been an intergalactic latchkey kid. While all this was happening, I couldn't help but think back to Steven's fight with Greg about not having boundaries and structure in his life, and how these maternal figures also always kept the reins pretty loose. And now there's no real way to stop him from storming off or causing havoc because that sort of social contract was never established. He was always a good boy. No one ever had to worry. These changes are new territory for everyone. When Steven is finally honest with just how bad things have gotten, hearing his actions aloud make him view himself as a monster. And so he literally becomes one. Okay, y'all, I've got to eat crow. My Jasper Steven theory? Totally out the window. Steven is the one and only monster who I also don't think can be called Wormy Boy anymore. Kaiju Steven? Anyway, Internet, you were right. I was wrong. I should have taken my Steven White win and retired. Oh, blast my hubris! It appears that Steven's self-doubt and monstrous view of himself is what causes him to become a monster. And this doesn't seem like a clear case of corruption. Always on brand, the Diamonds arrive just in time to see the chaos and destruction unfolding. As I discussed in my Homeward Bound video, that sweaty little flip-flop did have a Cinderella trajectory. The Royals bring the shoe home to its owner. As Kaiju Steven Godzilla's all over the beachfront, the gems fuse to form Alexandrite and fight, but are no match for him. The Diamonds attempt to use their powers on Steven as well, but are immediately spanked. Even the Cluster tries to intervene with little results. Lapis, however, manages to keep him at bay for a while with her water chains. Just goes to show how powerful she is. When brute force fails, everyone takes turns blaming themselves for what's happened to Steven. Amethyst should have said something. The Diamonds are all at fault. Spinel tried to let him die alone. Boo-hoo to everyone around the self-loathing, unstable monster. Thankfully, Connie gets them all to snap out of it. She tells them that clearly, yes, they have all had a hand in what Steven's going through, especially the Diamonds. But making this moment about them isn't what Steven needs right now, which I think is solid advice. Turning someone else's emotional turmoil into your own hardly fixes the situation, and it either makes the hurting feel as if they aren't being heard, or they internalize the guilt and it compacts more self-loathing. They've always had Steven to listen to and fix their problems. Steven needs them to be his Steven this time. Everyone bands together to WWSD. What would Steven do? And the answer? Come on, guys, what's always the answer in Steven Universe? Love! They hug him, reassure him that they're there for him, and even lay a hopefully healing kiss upon him. The acceptance of his friends and family brings Steven back to his normal form. The final episode harkens back a lot to the first season. We open with Steven performing the same exercise routine he did in Future Vision to the same tune on the radio. The radio's even broken in both scenes. Then we go all the way back to the very first episode, when Steven makes homemade Cookie Cat treats. Steven uses the tail of Cookie Cat to gently break it to the gems that he plans to move out. Steven's going to hit the road and see what's out there. This made me realize just how freaking brilliant that jingle is. The Cookie Cat rap basically tells the backstory of the show. Creatures from space, refugees from an interstellar war, how Pink left her family behind, it's all there. Also, Pearl eats! She eats the Cookie Cat as Steven recommends, ears first. She's come so far. The gems are just so adorable. I don't want to leave them. Steven makes plans to meet up with all of his friends as he traverses the 39 states. Now before you're like, man, Steven really needs to go to school, a little refresher on the world of Steven Universe. Rebecca Sugar has said that Steven Universe is set in an alternate Earth, and Steven lives in the proud state of Delmarva, a combination of Delaware, Maryland, and Virginia. I think it might be safe to assume that other states have been rolled together to make for 39 total. I feel like Connie would have corrected that when they started to plan his trip. On his travels, he notes how he'll see Sadie perform, catch up with Connie when she's touring colleges, and will make it for his weekly meetups with Lars. He assures his space moms that even though he'll be on the road, he'll still be able to schedule time with his new therapist. You guys, he did it! He got a therapist! How many episodes have you wanted this, and how many comments have you shared about it? I am beyond thrilled that Steven getting familial support was also paired with getting professional help to talk about all of his issues. So yes, Steven Universe is still all about love, but it also lets you know that help from family, from friends, and from trained medical professionals is totally okay to seek. Steven needed to admit that he needed help, and he went and got it. Like he told Spinell, that's a step towards making a change. Before embarking on this next chapter, Steven gives the gems parting gifts. Peridot gets his shirts, Lapis gets an amazing art set, Bismuth gets the original Crystal Gems flag, which is a very sentimental gift. Rose's battle flag was the symbol of the rebellion, and Bismuth had devoted herself to that rebellion. Bestowing the flag to Bismuth shows just how far Steven and Biz have come. He bubbled her once for her shatter or be shattered belief, and now he feels like she's the embodiment of what it means to be a crystal gem. Pearl gets Steven's uke, Garnet gets the wedding planning binder from Ruby and Garnet's wedding, and Amethyst is given all of his video games and gaming systems, leading Amethyst to take us back to the episode Rose's Room from Season 1, where we were introduced to Golf Quest Mini. I wonder if she's an ace, a Linda, or a wedge. While Peridot, Bismuth, and Lapis try to talk Steven out of moving, openly weep, and graciously accept their parting gifts, our OG trio of gems try to put on a brave face for Steven after Garnet saw that their tears could potentially keep him from embarking on his journey. Once they freely shed their tears in front of him, some more than others, Garnet assures Steven that whatever his future holds, they'll be part of it. I'm so happy they went with this open ending. I was really hoping to see a Steven who was just eager to explore the possibilities life had to offer him. Living is an adventure in itself, and doesn't need to be punctuated with a 5 years later epilogue to provide a satisfying conclusion. Greg couldn't argue with the poetic nature of one universe settling down as the other hits the road, and I can't either. Steven kisses Connie goodbye on the mouth, finally! Then he waves goodbye to the Sneeple of his town, and apparently gave a few of them going away gifts too. Check out Onion rocking the cheeseburger backpack! Steven drives off into the night, the same image we've seen at the end of every Steven Universe Future episode. Not necessarily saying farewell to Beach City, but see you later. Seeing how many people were impacted by this cartoon, reviewing some of the highlights from the show, and hearing Rebecca sing the theme song was such a fantastic way to cap the series. I'm not gonna lie, I cried. I cried a lot. And it was a really good, I'm so happy something like this exists cry. It was a, I've been home for weeks now, not able to hug my friends, and something like this reminds me how important friendship and connection is cry. And for that, I am so grateful. I came into this fandom late in the game, and it's been wonderful getting to fall in love with and share experiencing the show with so many of you. I'm so thankful for this beautiful story about mental health, the LGBTQ community, and space rocks wrapped up in magical girl transformations and DBZ-style fights. I know this show is so important to many of you, and it's so rewarding to be part of this fandom and connect over what this show has meant to you, how it's helped you. And what's really amazing is that last shot, letting us know that even though the show is over, this series is going to be there for you to revisit, no matter where you are in life. The Crewniverse will always be your family, and loving this show has fused something hopeful and loving and compassionate into you. You can go out and be the Steven you want to see in the world. Of course, this is just how I felt about the final episodes, and what I really want to know is, what did you think? Join the discussion and hit us up with your hot takes in the comments below. Thanks so much for watching this series with me, you guys. I don't know what I'm going to do with myself on Fridays now. Thanks to everyone on Patreon, to TeePublic, to Rebecca Sugar & Co. for delivering an awesome season. Wow. If you want to watch more videos, just click to the left. Thanks for watching. See you, Space Cowboy.